Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
Mekach ta'os, and the law regarding returning spoiled foods to the buyer in exchange for cash back, or at the very least, store credit. You went into a fruit store, you heard they have beautiful, big, ripe watermelons. You chose a nice, hefty one, paid a pretty penny. You return home anxiously to dig into those juicy watermelon slices, and lo and behold, your $20 watermelon is rotten to the core. The whole thing is useless. Do I have a right to return this watermelon to the buyer, to the store, and demand a cash refund for my $20? This question would apply to any rotten produce that has been purchased from a store under the obvious assumption that it is fresh and edible, and in the end it was found to be spoiled. What is the halacha regarding return policies? Unfortunately, while some store managers in such a situation would go with the business smart policy of the customer's always right and simply give them a refund, others are unresponsive and tell the buyer, tough luck, we're not giving you back anything, our policy is not to do returns on produce, on fruits and vegetables and the like. Didn't you read the sign on the door? And the question is, does the manager have any halachic and legal backing to his statement, and do I have the right to override him and demand for a cash payment back? And if not, he's considered a ganav, a robber. So to understand this matter, we must clarify a number of different points which will affect the outcome of this ruling. First and foremost is to understand, in general, who is meant to be out of luck when they ended up purchasing a spoiled product. Do we say it's the seller's problem, so he has to give a refund, or do we say it's the buyer's problem? It looked good, and it's impossible to know. We don't have x-ray machines in the stores. You got bad luck, it happens. Point number two, even if we were to say no, the problem is from the seller, in most cases, especially in supermarkets, it is not the seller that actually grew the vegetable or fruit. He bought it from someone else, from the farmer or another middleman, a distributor. Perhaps he can tell you, I agree that you deserve a refund, but what do you want from me? I'm in the same boat as you are. Go back to the original seller. Go speak to him and get a refund from him. Go back to the farm. Another matter to clarify is in regards to whether a store policy makes a difference or not in this, and regarding a state policy in consumer state laws of whether they have an effect on this halach. So let's begin with our first clarification. When you buy a spoiled product by mistake, who's out of luck, the buyer or the seller? So we have a clear ruling in the Mekach Mishpat, chapter 232, halacha 3, regarding the general laws of sales, that when you purchase something under a certain assumption, that is the general assumption for this product, and it was found to be with a blemish, then you have the right to demand a return, and he has to give you back the money for your purchase. The purchase is null and void. This is called a Mekach ta'os. And so is the Mechaber in 230 halacha 7 regarding spoiled beer, 232 halacha 16 regarding spoiled cheese, 232 halacha 19 regarding bloody eggs, and the same would apply to all cases of the like. You bought a food product, it ended up being spoiled, he has to return it for you. Return you the money. Now, regarding the question of whether this applies even if the seller himself is a merchant who purchased it from someone else, or perhaps he can send you back to the manufacturer, or the farm, or the distributor. So here we have a machlekes in the poskim. According to the Ramah, the Torah, and others, this buyer only has to deal with the individual who he bought it directly from. And the seller has no right to send him to anyone else to get his refund. The seller must give him his refund for a spoiled watermelon, and if he has an issue and a claim, let him take that up with the person he bought it from. But not that he can send me to him and deal with him. However, the Mechaber in 232.18, in argument of the Ramah, rules that in fact the merchant has the right to circumvent the refund and simply send the buyer to the original seller, manufacturer, farmer, etc. Practically, as Ashkenazim, we rule like the Ramah, while Sephardim would rule like the Mechaber. So if you are Ashkenazi and the seller's an Ashkenazi, he has no claim, and you are allowed to demand from him a full cash refund for your spoiled product that you purchased from him, even if he himself purchased it from someone else. However, if any of the two are Sephardim, then Amaitzi Mechaver all of Araya, and one of them can claim Kimli. The Ashkenazi seller can claim, you're Sephardi, you follow the Mechaber, go to the manufacturer, go to my distributor. And certainly if the seller is Sephardi, he can claim, I follow the Mechaber, even though you're Ashkenazi, you have no claim against me, go to the distributor. Now let's clarify the third point. What if the store has a store policy regarding returns on produce, which many stores do for obvious reasons? Does this make a difference in the equation regarding getting a return for your spoiled product? So here too we have a clear ruling of the Mechaber in Choshen Mishpat 232.7 that a store policy cannot invalidate your right of returns on a Mekach tos, on a spoiled item, on a blemished item. And they can put to the return policy on the door all they want. It's worthless halachically regarding this matter. And they must give you a full return for your spoiled product. So to summarize what we said thus far, one who purchases a spoiled produce from a store, has the right to demand a full cash refund, irrelevant of store policy, and according to Ashkenazim, irrelevant of whether this seller bought it from another buyer or produced it himself. Nonetheless, there are two caveats, there are two sub-conditions which need to be met in order for the return to be halachically required from the seller's side. Number one, the product had to be spoiled from the time of purchase, but if it's spoiled later on, then it's no good. If you originally bought it, it was fresh, and then later it's spoiled, you have no claim against the seller. And in the case that one is unsure of when it's spoiled, like let's say you only open the watermelon a week later, then the burden of proof is on the consumer, on the buyer, as a maitzim mechaver olav haraya. Another caveat is regarding the state law. Many states and countries contain consumer laws which are both meant to protect sellers and buyers at the same time. And the halacha is, as recorded in Choshen Mishpat 232.6 and 232.19, that the above law that we summarized of forcing the seller to give you a full cash refund only applies absent of any state consumer laws in this matter. If, however, there are state consumer laws regarding the returns of spoiled produce, then those laws are fully in effect. The kula ulachumra, for good or for bad. So, for example, if the state law is that there's no returns for spoiled products, spoiled produce, spoiled watermelon, then the seller does not have to give you any money back. And on the other hand, if the state law is that if you bought a produce and it was spoiled, then the seller must give you a return, then he must give it to you even if you're a Sephardi, and he can't send you after the manufacturer. Likewise, if the state law allows the seller to reimburse the buyer with store credit as opposed to cash, then that too is allowed to be done. As all state laws regarding buyers, consumers, and sellers are fully halachically valid and in effect, as opposed to a personal store policy, which we already said gets overridden by the halacha. So for a final summary, in all areas absent of consumer law and regulations regarding the return of spoiled food products, the buyer has the halachic right to demand a cash refund for his food product from the store if it was spoiled at the time of purchase. If the buyer already paid for the product, the burden of proof of when the food spoiled falls on him. The personal policy of the store does not carry any legal halachic weight in this regard, and in areas with consumer laws regarding returns of food products, all the laws are halachically binding on the buyer and seller. Nonetheless, as the saying goes, in business and in general in life, try to be smart, not correct. And if the consumer made his way with the watermelon or whatever it is to complain of a spoiled product, it would not be very business-wise to rebuff them and point to their policy or state policy that we don't allow returns when you sold them a spoiled produce.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many Sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.